It's Professor Greg's class. When considering data narratives, there are two key concepts that I want to cover in today's video. Those two key concepts are the data deluge and information asymmetry. The data deluge is, you've heard that term probably thrown around in the last couple of years, this idea that data is being created at such an incredible rate, right? That we need, you hear big data, that we need professionals who can manage that. Over 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created every single day, right? And this year, it's estimated that each individual person on the planet will create 1.7 megabytes of data every single second. Conventional knowledge has told us that in order to meet that demand for making sense of this incredible amount of data that we produce, we should be churning out people with the technical skills, right, to grapple with that data and that information, which I think is very much a wrong approach. Yes, it's incredibly important that we have people who have the technical knowledge to manage, to wrangle, to clean this data and information, but we also need an equal number of professionals who have studied the humanities, who have studied fields that generally lead towards critical thinking and storytelling, so that not only can we take a technological approach to engaging with this data and this information, but also a very much humanistic approach. How can we make sense of this information? How can we morally engage with it? How can we engage with it in a way that isn't taking advantage of people? How can we compensate people for their data and for their information? So I think that this topic of data narratives is incredibly important and incredibly timely now, because at the end of the day, what this data deluge represents is not simply an increase in certain types of activities, but an increase in our ability to capture those activities and boil them down to numbers. So basically what we're doing is we're taking the entire human story, we're boiling it down to statistics, to information, to baseline interactions with stimulators, right? Things that capture stimulus. And then we capture it, we analyze it on a massive computational scale, and then we have to give it back to people, right? So then we have to recreate and recraft the story of humanity, basically, and we have to do it towards a certain purpose. That leads me towards my next piece of vocabulary for this video, which is information asymmetry. Many of you who've taken economics courses may be familiar with this term. Information asymmetry is the situation where one party either has better information or more information. Now, with the data deluge, this becomes a little bit more complicated, because not only is it a matter of having better or more information, it's also a matter of having different information, which again is where those analytically minded professionals are going to come in, because it's not just a cut and dry, yes, you have the information or you don't. It's also what information do they have? Is it more convincing? It may not be better or worse, it might just be different. It might be contradictory. How do we deal with the complexities of contradiction? How do we deal with the complexities of having equal things that are true, they're just true in different spaces, right? How do we wrangle those together into a singular kind of narrative? So there's a list of a few core rhetorical things that I think we need to deal with this. So I'm going to go through that list right now. These are very much informed by the rhetorical situation and those rhetorical words that I've brought up a couple of times in some of my other videos. The number one thing that you need to present in any of your data narratives or your data storytelling is the context, right? The actual situation, the rhetorical situation. What has brought us here? What is the historical context? What is the situation that has led us to this place? It's one thing to just talk about the data and the information as it is. It's an entirely other thing to talk about where it came from. You might look at criminal statistics very blindly, right? And you might think, oh, then this community just has more criminals, right? But if you're not looking at the economic context of that community, you're going to make wrong assumptions about the community and about the people that live there. So you need the context. The second thing that you need is the people involved, right? Who are your characters in this story? Who are the people who's the audience? Who are you telling this to? Who are your subjects? Who are the actors, right? Who are people who are potentially trying to solve this or maybe even make this situation worse? You need those individual characters. You should list them out. You should name them, and you should talk about exactly what they do in this situation that you're placing them in. So I want you to think about all this stuff as a space, right? Think of it as like a snow globe. And you've got all of these different things that are entering and exiting that snow globe. And your job is to craft a story that tells the narrative and the tale of that space, that individual space. The third thing that you should be addressing is the problem, right? The urgency. In rhetorical theory, we call this the exigence, right? What is the thing that necessitates the creation of language? So what is the situation that requires that you now create language to address it? In a later video, we're going to talk specifically about discourse, right? Discourse is the individual vocabulary that's created out of situations. We're going to talk about how to study it, and we're going to talk about how to actually create it, how to create language. Number 4 are the actions that really, that have been taken, right, to address this problem. You should talk about past actions that are already sort of in place, which will then help you follow up on number 5, which is your resolution, right? Your thing that you're going to propose to help solve this problem that you've predefined. Number 6 is the action steps to take, and a time frame for those, right? For those steps that you can take. So this is more building on that urgency. So beyond just the data and the resolution and the things that can be done, what is the actual time frame that it needs to be done, and what is the urgency? What's the consequence in waiting? Right? So maybe you have a problem and maybe you have a resolution, but at the end of the day, we need more urgency to say we need to resolve this now because here are the consequences, and that's going to give your audience a fuller picture, right, of exactly what's going on. And then to close, right, very much in a TED Talk type of way, you should be in closing with your personalized insights, your key messages, and trying to inspire and empower the people who just read your work, the audience. You want people leaving feeling motivated. I have students who ask me about conclusions all the time. Your conclusion is there to leave your audience feeling inspired, to help them feel like they can do something, like this problem can be solved. So, I hope that this was helpful. I'm going to post some resources in the bio down below that you can take a peek at to help you better understand this data narratives and this data storytelling thing. All right, I'll see you next time.